Picture this, you are walking into a high-stakes meeting, or maybe you're just stepping onto a really incredibly crowded subway train.
Yeah, we have all been there.
Right. And your heart is beating a little fast, your shoulders are hunched, and you're basically just hoping nobody really notices you.
You're trying to make yourself as small as possible.
Exactly. Now, what could a 350-million-year-old crustacean, scurrying across the ocean floor, possibly teach us about that exact moment of human anxiety?
It sounds like a totally bizarre connection to make, honestly.
It really does. And more importantly, what does that ancient sea creature have to do with, your daily routine and the exact way you physically carry yourself?
Well, the biological bridge between that ancient lobster and our modern human brain is, it's astonishingly direct. We are talking about deep primal circuitry here.
Circuitry that dictates our confidence.
Yeah, our confidence, our stress levels, and even whether our immune system is fully functioning or not.
Which is wild. And that is exactly what we are unpacking today. Welcome to the Deep Dive. We are exploring excerpts from the Hindi translation of a massive global bestseller, Jordan B. Peterson's 12 Rules for Life, or, in this edition, Jivan K. 12 Niyam Avivasta Sivyavasta Kior.
It's a heavy text, for sure.
It is. So our mission today is to look at the biological, historical, and psychological roots of human behavior found in this material, and really just translate some intensely dense theories into practical mechanics.
Because it's all about how we function day to day.
Right. So if you, the listener, have ever felt completely overwhelmed by the sheer chaos of modern life, or, if you've ever wondered why something as mundane as eating breakfast at the same time every day actually changes your brain chemistry, well, this exploration is custom tailored for you.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah, where do we even start?
Well, to understand those physical mechanisms like the brain chemistry stuff, we actually have to start with a seemingly abstract concept, which is rule.
Why do we even need them at all?
Exactly. According to the foreword by Norman Doidge in our source material, human beings have this deep natural resistance to rules.
Oh, right. There's a great joke mentioned in the foreword. It's about Moses coming down from the mountain after negotiating with God.
Yeah, that's the one.
He tells the crowd, I have good news and bad news. The good news is I got him down from 15 commandments to 10.
Always a negotiator.
Right. But then he says the bad news is adultery is still included.
It's funny, but it really highlights our inherent rebellion, We chafe at restriction. We just don't like being told what to do.
Definitely. But the core argument here is that without rules, we don't actually become free.
No, not at all. The mechanism of human psychology dictates that without them, we quickly become slaves to our base passions.
Like the story of the Israelites dancing around the golden calf.
Precisely. The material uses that biblical story as a metaphor. Unrestrained freedom doesn't lead to some, liberated, peaceful utopia.
It leads to chaos.
Right, an unmoored, destructive existence, because there is no structure to channel human energy.
So, okay, if a complete lack of rules equals chaos, I think the author is someone who just loves strict authoritarian order.
I think that, yeah.
But this is where the story of his actual house comes in, and it's fascinating. The author, who is this pragmatic psychologist from rural Alberta, famously decorated his home with an extensive collection of Soviet-era propaganda art.
Yeah, paintings of Lenin, socialist realist art praising the regime. It was literally all over the walls.
Even on the ceilings and in the bathroom, I think?
Yeah, everywhere.
Now, hanging Soviet propaganda in your dining room sounds incredibly heavy. It's like keeping a haunted doll on your nightstand just to remind yourself that ghosts exist.
That is a great way to put it.
Right. Doesn't surrounding yourself with reminders of human evil just add more chaos to your home? You don't keep a deadly virus on your desk because you like it.
No, you keep it there so you never forget what you were fighting. That's the perfect analogy. The author didn't hang those paintings out of any sympathy for the totalitarian regime.
Okay, so why do it?
He hung them as a constant chilling visual anchor. They serve as a daily psychological reminder of how human beings can commit horrific atrocities while genuinely believing they are creating a utopia.
So it's a reminder of what happens when rules become rigid ideologies.
Exactly. Ideologies offer these simple, totalitarian answers to incredibly complex problems. And the material uses this context to critique modern moral relativism.
Okay, let's pause right there because moral relativism is one of those heavy academic terms. In the context of this deep dive, what exactly does that mean?
Well, in this context, moral relativism is the idea that there is no absolute right or wrong. It's the belief that every viewpoint is equally valid.
where tolerance is basically framed as the ultimate virtue.
Right. But the critique here is that this mindset leaves an entire generation without a moral compass.
Because if everything is equally valid, then nothing really matters.
Exactly. And you have no defense when a destructive ideology comes along promising to fix everything for you.
But wait, isn't tolerance a good thing? Why is there such a hard pushback against a concept that most of us considered just a basic social virtue?
Well, tolerance is absolutely a virtue when it comes to living peacefully in a diverse society. But the problem arises when tolerance becomes the only virtue.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, if you tolerate everything, you basically stand for nothing. The true antidote to the danger of totalitarian ideologies isn't just passive tolerance.
What is it then?
It's taking absolute personal responsibility. And taking responsibility requires active virtue. It requires making difficult judgments about right and wrong and then actually governing your own life accordingly.
Okay, so if rigid utopian ideologies are dangerous because they crush the individual, but total rule-free freedom just makes us slaves to our impulses, where is the actual middle ground?
That is the big question.
How do we find a balance between the two? Interestingly enough, the author found the framework for this balance on the internet. Specifically, the website Quora.
Yeah, the genesis of this entire philosophy is surprisingly modern, even though it deals with ancient concepts.
Right, he basically answered a question on Quora that asked, what are the most valuable things everyone should know?
And he wrote a list of rules.
Some deeply serious, some a bit funny, and it just went completely viral.
It did. But the core philosophy he built around those internet rules relies on something incredibly ancient, the concepts of order and chaos.
Which are universally symbolized by the ancient yin and yang, right? The white and black serpents chasing each other.
Exactly. And to understand how these apply to our daily lives, we have to define them. Order represents the known, the familiar, and the socially stable.
It's the secure path.
Right, where your expectations match reality. Symbolically, the text notes it is often associated with the masculine. Chaos, on the other hand, is the unknown.
The unexpected.
Yeah, it's what happens when your secure path suddenly crumbles beneath you. It can be a destructive force, but it's also the creative force. It's the place where new things are born and new possibilities exist.
And symbolically, it's associated with the feminine.
Correct.
So if order is the safe, familiar space where everything works perfectly, and chaos is a terrible shock like suddenly getting fired from your job or experiencing a global pandemic, shouldn't our goal just be to aim for 100% order in our lives?
It's a natural impulse to want total safety.
Right. Shouldn't we just lock everything down and eliminate all the chaos?
Well, the material strictly warns against that. If you look closely at the yin and yang symbol, there is a black dot within the white serpent of order.
Oh, yeah.
That dot is crucial. It signifies that too much order inevitably becomes tyrannical.
Like a dictatorship.
Exactly. It becomes rigid, lifeless, and unable to adapt to change. You just cannot eliminate the unknown because the world is constantly changing.
So hiding in a fortress of order doesn't work.
No, meaning in life isn't found there. It's found by walking the fine, razor-edge borderline between order and chaos.
You need the stability of the known, but you also need the courage to step into the unknown to grow.
Perfectly said.
And to understand just how deeply our physical bodies are wired to navigate this exact balance of order and chaos,
Yeah.
we have to go way, way back. Like 350 million years back.
To the ocean floor.
To the lobsters.
Right. Rule 1 in the book is stand up straight with your shoulders back.
And to explain the profound biological necessity of this, the author points to how lobsters handle territorial disputes.
Because lobsters need safe spaces on the ocean floor to hunt and scavenge.
But good real estate is incredibly rare down there. So when two lobsters want the same prime spot, they have a serious problem.
They do. And you might think, given that they have massive crushing claws, they would just immediately attack each other.
Exactly. If I had giant claws and someone tried to take my house, I'd probably use them. Why don't they just rip each other apart immediately?
Because fighting to the death is biologically expensive and highly risky. Even the winner might lose a claw or bleed to death.
Evolution favors efficiency.
Right. So instead of immediate slaughter, they engage in a highly structured 4-stage combat escalation.
4 stages.
Yeah, the mechanism here is designed to settle the dispute with the minimum amount of physical damage possible.
Okay, so stage 1 is purely posturing, all right? They wave their open claws, trying to look as big and intimidating as possible.
Exactly. And if one realizes he's much smaller, he just leaves. No harm done.
But if nobody backs down, they go to stage 2, where they start spraying chemical signals at each other.
Yeah, they literally shoot a liquid that communicates their size, their health, and their aggression levels.
It's essentially a chemical resume swap to see who is stronger.
That's exactly what it is. Now, stage 3, if the resumes match, things get physical, but not lethal. They advance to whipping their antennas at each other.
Like trying to force the other one to submit.
Right. And if all else fails, and they are perfectly matched in stubbornness, stage 4 is brutal, potentially fatal physical combat.
Where they actually try to flip and dismember each other.
Yeah. But what is truly remarkable here is not just the fighting strategy, but the neurochemical aftermath of winning and losing.
The brain chemistry changes.
Dramatically. When a lobster wins one of these encounters, its neurochemistry undergoes a massive shift. It experiences a surge of serotonin and a sharp decrease in a chemical called octopamine.
Okay, let's break down octopamine, because that's not a chemical we usually hear about when talking about human brains. What does it actually do?
Well, octopamine is essentially the invertebrate equivalent of adrenaline.
Oh, okay.
It drives the flight response. So when a lobster has low octopamine and high serotonin, it feels secure.
And this specific chemical cocktail physically alters the lobster.
Yes. The winner will literally strut. They stretch out, they look physically larger, and they effortlessly claim the best territory and the most attractive mates because they project dominance and safety.
Wow. And the loser gets the exact opposite cocktail, right? Low serotonin, high octopamine.
Exactly, which means their system is flooded with that invertebrate adrenaline.
They become jittery and hyperreactive.
Desperate to run away. They physically slouch, they cower, and they exhibit this hyperreactive tail flick reflex.
A tail flick reflex.
Yeah, at the slightest hint of danger, they snap their tail and flee backward. The material actually compares this physical state to human PTSD.
Like an extreme startle response, because the brain believes it is under constant threat. That makes so much sense.
And the physiological impact of losing is so severe that a dominant lobster that suffers a crushing defeat will undergo a profound physical transformation.
Wait, a physical transformation?
Yes. Its brain will literally dissolve and regrow as subordinate's brain.
Wait, a defeated lobster basically has to physically re-download a loser operating system into its own head.
That is literally what happened.
That is wild. And to prove how connected this all is to us, the material notes that if you give a depressed, defeated lobster human antidepressants.
Specifically drugs like Prozac, which are designed to boost serotonin.
Right. That subordinate lobster will stretch back out and want to fight again.
Which perfectly illustrates the evolutionary continuity between us and them. We share this ancient primal circuitry.
So we have a lobster brain inside us.
At the base of our brains, we have a foundational calculator that is constantly tracking our social status.
Okay.
When we are defeated, when we feel we've fallen down the hierarchy, whether that's from, a bad breakup, losing a job, or just chronic stress, our brains restrict our serotonin.
And just like the lobster, this mechanism fundamentally alters our physical posture. We slouch, we look down, and our emotional resilience is severely diminished.
Exactly. So if serotonin literally dictates which lobster gets the safest rock on the ocean floor, it means nature has a built-in biological mechanism for unequal distribution.
And that biological inequality doesn't just stay at the bottom of the ocean. It scales up into human society.
Yes, it does.
Which brings us to what economists call Price's Law, or the Pareto Principle. The text also refers to it as the Matthew Principle.
To those who have everything, more will be given, and from those who have nothing, everything will be taken.
Right. It is the brutal mathematics of success and failure. In the lobster world, the top dominant males get all the best safe spots and all the mating opportunities.
And in human society, this unequal distribution applies to almost every creative and economic endeavor.
Like the top 1% of people hold wealth equal to the bottom 50%. A tiny fraction of authors sell almost all the books in the world.
Even in classical music.
Yeah, think of all the people who have ever composed music in human history. Yet a tiny fraction of composers, we're talking Bach, Beethoven, Mozart, Tchaikovsky, wrote almost all of the classical music that is still played in modern orchestras today.
The point being made here is that nature is not some peaceful, romantic, perfectly egalitarian system.
That's brutal.
It is dynamic, and it is inherently unequal. Dominance hierarchies are not modern, artificial inventions of capitalism or a patriarchal society.
These hierarchies are 500 million years old. They literally predate trees.
They do.
Now, I have to push back here because this is where things can sound really controversial to people.
Sure.
I can hear you, the listener, thinking, wait, Are we just justifying extreme human inequality by saying, well, that's how lobsters do it, so it's fine?
Right.
How do we separate a harsh biological reality from human morality? Are we saying it's actually good that a few people have everything and the rest of us have to struggle?
That is a critical distinction, and it's so important to understand exactly what the material is arguing here. We aren't taking sides, we're just looking at the text. And the author is not endorsing this extreme inequality as a moral good.
He's not saying this is fair.
No, he is not saying this is how it should be. Rather, he is objectively reporting that this hierarchical structure is a permanent feature of our environment.
It's just a reality of biology and physics.
Exactly. Our brains are hardwired to recognize this hierarchy. The argument is that ignoring this reality, pretending that these hierarchies are entirely social constructs that we can just easily dismantle with a new political system, leaves us completely unable to navigate the world.
We have to clearly understand the brutal landscape of reality if we want to survive and improve it.
Precisely.
Okay, so if we accept that our brains are absolutely obsessed with where we stand in this ancient hierarchy, what physically happens to us when our internal status calculator decides we're at the very bottom of it?
Well, when your internal calculator drops your status to the bottom, it triggers a perpetual emergency mode.
Okay.
Your brain restricts your serotonin. You become hypervigilant, constantly stressed, and highly impulsive.
Because your brain thinks you might not survive the week.
Right, so you better take whatever short-term rewards you can get. Furthermore, because your body believes you're in constant, immediate danger, it literally shuts down your immune system to conserve energy for a physical fight or flight.
So you burn through your physical and mental resources at an alarming, unsustainable rate.
Exactly. And this physiological emergency mode leads directly into what the material calls destructive positive feedback loops.
To understand the mechanism of a positive feedback loop, think about being at a concert, right?
Oh, the microphone analogy.
Yeah. If someone points a microphone too close to a speaker, the mic picks up a tiny bit of sound. It sends that sound to the speaker.
Yeah.
The speaker plays it slightly louder.
And then the mic picks up that louder sound.
Right. Sends it back to the speaker, which plays it even louder. Within seconds, that tiny sound accelerates into a deafening, screeching howl that can blow out the entire sound system.
Terrible.
That loop of acceleration is exactly what happens to our biological systems when we hit the bottom of the hierarchy.
The material provides vivid examples of how these physiological loops trap people. Take alcoholism, for example.
Okay.
We often think people drink just to get drunk. But a heavy drinker's blood alcohol spikes, and then when it drops, they experience a hangover.
Which is awful.
But a hangover isn't just a headache. It is literally a symptom of alcohol withdrawal. Their body is in chemical distress.
So to cure the severe anxiety and the physical pain of that withdrawal, they drink more alcohol.
Exactly. The cure they're using for the pain is the exact substance causing the pain in the first place.
That creates a deadly accelerating loop where the medicine becomes the poison.
Right. Another incredibly intense example of a psychological feedback loop from the text is agoraphobia.
Which is the intense fear of open spaces or leaving the house, right?
Yes. And the mechanics of how this develops are terrifyingly simple. Often a person will suffer a random panic attack in a crowded place, like a shopping mall.
Their heart races, they hyperventilate, and it basically feels like they're having a heart attack.
It's terrifying, so they flee the mall. But what does the primal brain learn from that sequence of events?
Well, the primal brain's anxiety system logs a very simple binary lesson. The mall is dangerous. We ran away from the mall, and we survived. Therefore, running away was the correct biological response to a mortal threat.
Exactly. The relief they feel when they get to their car reinforces the fear of the mall.
So the next time they even think about going to the mall, their heart rate spikes.
So they avoid it. Then the anxiety transfers to a slightly smaller space, like the grocery store.
They panic, they flee, the relief reinforces the fear again.
Then they avoid the street outside, until eventually their safe world shrinks down to just their living room.
The outside world is entirely categorized as a mortal threat by their malfunctioning internal calculator. Being stuck at the bottom of the hierarchy, caught in these loops, is just exhausting.
It really is. Which brings us to the most practical part of the analysis. How do you break the loop?
Right. How do we fix it?
What's fascinating here is that the initial solutions the author proposes are not cognitive therapy or deep psychological delving.
They are strictly physical.
Yes. You cannot just think your way out of biological chaos when your brain chemistry is working against you. The suggestion is to start with the physical body.
Okay, step one.
First, wake up at the exact same time every single day.
Why does waking up at the same time matter to a brain that's having a panic attack, though?
Because a predictable routine regulates your circadian rhythm, which governs the release of cortisol and other stress hormones.
Ah, okay.
If your sleep is chaotic, your biological clock thinks your environment is unstable, which keeps you in emergency mode.
That makes total sense.
Second, eat a high-fat, high-protein breakfast first thing in the morning.
Right. And the mechanism here is crucial. Why high fat and high protein specifically?
Well, if you eat pure carbohydrates, like a bowl of sugary cereal, your blood sugar spikes and then rapidly crashes.
And to your primal 350 million-year-old brain, that sudden drop in blood sugar physically mimics a starvation emergency.
Exactly. It prompts your adrenal glands to dump cortisol and adrenaline into your system to force you to go find food.
And you experience this biological alarm bell as sudden free-floating anxiety.
Yeah.
Regulating your physical digestion literally shuts off the neurological alarm bells.
Precisely. It is all about signaling safety to that ancient brain. This is why the rule is to stand up straight. The material points out that bullies, much like dominant lobsters, often target people who physically manifest defeat.
If you slouch, if you constantly look at the ground, or if you hold an ideological belief that all aggression is morally wrong, you basically suppress your own necessary assertiveness.
And you signal to the world that you are at the bottom, but more importantly, you signal it to your own brain.
So by physically changing your posture, you are hacking your own neurochemistry.
Exactly. The mind-body connection goes both ways. Your physical posture is an input mechanism to your brain.
Wow.
By literally standing up straight, pulling your shoulders back, and expanding your physical presence, you are voluntarily accepting the burden of existence.
You are signaling to your own serotonin system that you are not a defeated subordinate and that you are ready to face the chaos of the unknown. So as we wrap up this deep dive into the insights from Jivan Key 12 Niyam, let's distill what we've unpacked today. We started by exploring how rules and taking absolute personal responsibility are the true antidotes to the dangerous, simplistic answers offered by totalitarian ideologies.
We examine the eternal balance between order and chaos, recognizing that a meaningful life is lived on the fine borderline between the two.
Not by hiding in the complete tyrannical safety of order, nor by drowning in the destructive unknown of chaos.
Right. And we traveled to the bottom of the ocean to see that this battle is reflected in 350 million-year-old biology.
We are subject to the same brutal laws of unequal distribution, and our physical presence, our posture, our daily routines, whether we stabilize our blood sugar in the morning, actively dictates our brain chemistry and our perceived place in the world.
So to you, the listener, the next time you find yourself slouching at your desk or skipping breakfast because you're stressed and in a rush, remember that the ancient calculator at the base of your brain is watching every move you make.
It takes those physical actions as hard evidence of your social status and your safety.
And it really does.
I want to leave you with a final provocative thought to mull over today. If your brain literally takes cues from your physical posture to decide whether it's safe to produce serotonin and allow you to be happy, what other unconscious physical signals are you sending yourself every single minute of the day?
That's a great question.
Are your shallow, rapid breaths telling your brain to panic? Is your rushed, frantic walking pace telling your ancient brain that you are actively being chased by a predator? Could changing the entire trajectory of your life really be as simple and as profoundly difficult as standing up straight? Just remember the lobster on the ocean floor. Your brain is waiting for you to decide which one you are.